Hello everyone, so today I'm gonna let my cat Sally pick my art prompt. So I will have a couple of notes and I will put them on the floor upside down with some cat treat on them. And the first one that Sally picks is the one I'm gonna go with. So yeah, let's get started. So I'm gonna do this in a couple of rounds. We're gonna design a human character, but I wanted to have some kind of animal features, so that is what she's gonna pick for me first. I just picked some animals that I thought would be interesting to combine with a human person, and it's either gonna have bird features, feline, deer, or reptile. So that is what Sally is gonna pick for me. And yes, I'm doing this on the floor. All right, so let's pick one. Which one is she gonna pick? All right, so she picked reptile. No. We're done with these ones. Also, these are just regular food, not actual treats. So this reptile human character, does it live in a fantasy world or more of a science fiction futuristic world? What's it? What's it? Yeah! Alright, so the one she picked is science fiction. Oh, that is gonna be interesting. That's... Yeah! So to make this character a little more interesting, we're gonna add some extra features or prompts. So we have witch, wild, nature, royal, horror, or celestial. So I'm actually gonna let Sally pick two of these to make it even more interesting. Kom nu Sally. Titta! Vilken vill du ha? Inte dem. Ja, vilken vill du ha? Den. Den där. Okej, den. And that one. All right. Yeah, you can have the rest of them. Yeah. All right, so the ones you picked were horror, and wild/nature. That is gonna be an interesting one to combine with the futuristic science fiction theme. All right. So there we have those. And back to the box she goes. All right, so here we have our character. Let's make it even more interesting and add some art challenge to this. So the art challenges are rainbow, and that means that I will have to use all the colors of the rainbow. And then we have monochrome, which means that I can only use one color, but I can use different tones in this color. And then we have 3 random colors. So all right, Sally, let's pick the art challenge. Now then, and the one she picked is monochrome. That is gonna be fun. Yay! So reptiles aren't anything I usually draw, but I kind of like the look of them, like the eyes for example, and some of the lizards that I saw when I searched for references had this smug smirk on their faces, which I loved. So I sketched some reptile things like the tongue, eye, different creatures, just to get my brain working. Sally will help me pick the color for the monochromatic color scheme in just a bit, but first let's design this reptile futuristic character. I first thought I would do some practicing, sketching some science fiction themed robots and stuff, but I started drawing this character and then I kind of just went with that, drawing a bunch of character designs before deciding on one is apparently not my thing. I start drawing and then I just go with that. Anywho, from the science fiction prompt, I decided on a robot person, maybe a cyborg, because it does have some organic parts like the hands. It is like part robot and part human lizard creature. And I think the hardest part to add to this illustration was the horror prompt. It turned out a bit more subtle than I first wanted. And as you may have noticed, this robot is missing its lower half and all the guts are dragging in the ground. I want to be clear, it is not human guts, it is robot guts, cords and wires and that kind of things. So yeah, classical splatter horror in a more subtle manner. And I made the arms a bit longer than what is normally anatomically correct. Characters with long arms and spindly fingers got a bit of a scary vibe to them. And for the nature/wild prompt, it is holding a little flower. I will talk more about my idea and the backstory for this character in just a bit, but now Sally is gonna pick the color for this drawing. Yeah, alright. So the color we're gonna work with is orange. Oh, that's interesting. Ali, Lee. Oh. Das? Ow. Alright, thank you Sally for the help. She will be sleeping for the rest of the day now. So here I'm picking out some orangey colors. It is mainly from the Copic yellow-red family, the YRs, but I needed some darker colors too, so I picked some warmer E-tones as well. So these are the ones I'm going with. I also threw in a black for the background, you never know. So I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if there is a difference between monochrome and monochromatic, or if it is just the same word, the same thing, but monochrome is usually associated with black and white images, but I'm thinking more of when an image is in one color only, just different color tones, like seeing a night vision video that is all green, for example. And the reason I want to wait with picking the color is because I don't want it to affect the character design. I don't want to accidentally adjust the character to the color. So I did a line art for this piece digitally on my iPad and then I printed it out on Bristol board. I love doing the line art traditionally with a brush pen, but sometimes when I don't have a lot of time it can be really stressful since I'm so scared of messing things up and then having to redo it all over again. So sometimes it is more relaxing to just do it digitally where I can easily fix any mistakes and I can print as many line arts as I want. Anyway, I am trying to portion out the lighter and darker tones to get a good balance. I put the lighter yellowish tones between the darker tones so that it doesn't blend together. And I'm actually really liking this color palette. I usually don't work that much with orangey color tones, but it is very fitting for this scene, I think. The robot almost got a rusty look to it. And I usually don't think of backstories for the characters that I draw, but I imagine this scene taking place on a different planet, of course, and maybe there's been a war. Or why not a natural disaster? Heck, this might actually be the Earth in the future, who knows? But men created these kinds of robots to work for them, as usual, and do all the dangerous missions that needed to be done, perhaps sending them out in the toxic atmosphere, looking for life or other useful things like materials, food. But one day the human had to leave the planet, or maybe the whole humankind just died and left where these robots, and since the robots can't really die, they just stay there on the planet all by themselves and they became more and more wild and worn and broken, affected by the rough climate and the weather and the toxic atmosphere. The planet is just a dark desert now, but the robots keep living on in whatever conditions they're in. Like this one, who lost the whole lower body at some point, maybe in a specifically violent storm, or judging by the look of it, maybe it met a very dangerous creature that also lives on this planet. And ever since it has just been dragging itself around on the planet on its elbows and forearms, not even bothered by the cords and the stuff hanging out from it. And since it was initially programmed to look for life and materials, It has just kept searching and searching, and finally it found life, a little spot of thriving grass and flowers in the middle of the dark, unfriendly desert. So yeah, that is my idea. Maybe not a super original story, but that is what I had in mind when I designed this character and the background. So yeah, as I mentioned, I first wanted the horror theme to be more prominent, but having this pose with a robot looking at the flower, it is quite a peaceful scene, so I decided to limit the horror to the guts on the ground. May not be super horrifying, but still. I added little dots to the armor to replicate scales to make it look a little more reptile-like, and I think the background was actually the trickiest part to make, or to be honest, I made it tricky for myself. I wanted the planets in the background and the little flower that the robot is holding to glow, and blending light orange or yellow with black. Not easy, but I used the browns as transition colors between the yellow and black, and it kinda worked, not great, but it kinda looks like it is glowing. I am actually really happy with how this turned out. I was a little intimidated at first because science fiction is not my favorite. I don't like to draw robots or armors or any mechanical bits and pieces or anything like that, but it was such a fun exercise. Sure, I came up with the prompts myself, but I still gave myself a challenge. If Sally had picked other prompts, it would have turned out completely different, and this reptile, life-searching robot would never have been born. And I just love doing stuff with Sally. Let me know if you want more videos with her in it, and maybe some suggestions what she could help me with next. So yeah, the whole illustration looks a little sloppy until I start adding the white outline around the character. I think it helped a lot to separate the robot from the background to make it pop a little more, and I also added a bunch of stars, which brought this whole piece together, I think. So here we have today's illustration, including the prompts reptile, science fiction, wild/nature, horror, and orange monochromatic color scheme. So I hope you enjoyed this video, leave a like if you did, and for more arts and cats, subscribe to my channel, and hopefully I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching, keep drawing my happy cats, bye!